Hey, hi, hello guys, welcome back to Code with Nani channel. So today lead code problem of the day, length of longest Fibonacci subsequence. So you are given a subsequence from x1 to xn is should be like a Fibonacci, like if n is greater than 3 and the xi plus 1 should be equal to xi plus 2, then you can call it as a Fibonacci series. So given a strictly increasing array of positive integers forming a sequence, okay, return the length of the longest Fibonacci like sequence of array. If one doesn't exist, then just return 0. A sequence is derived from another sequence by deleting it just says like subsequence. So what the question is saying that, so you are given an array, let's say. So you are given array 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and it also given that it is a strictly increasing array, which means the elements are in the sorted out. So you need to find a Fibonacci series and which is the maximum length. We need to find the length of the longest Fibonacci subsequence. So if you take this case, if you take these two, 1 2, what does Fibonacci series says? Fibonacci series says is xi plus xi plus 1 equal to xi equal to xi plus 2, which means previous element previous element plus previous element plus previous element should be is equal to the current element. So if you take this one as 1 and 2 as this is a previous element, then previous element, then the sum of the two elements is 3. So we have a 3 in our set. So for the next element you should look for these two elements. What is this? 3 plus 2 5. So we have a 5 as well. And then for the next two we need to check for these two elements. 3 plus 5 8. We have 8 as well. So if you separate those elements into a new array, 1 2 3, so 2 plus 3 5, and 5 plus 3 8. So we have a, this should be the longest subsequence of the Fibonacci series. So what is the length of this array? 3 plus 2 5. So we need to return that as well. Suppose if you don't have any elements such that it follows a subsequence and such that it follows a Fibonacci series, then you can directly return 0 as the answer. So if you carefully look at the constraints of the solution, it is given that n should be less than or equal to 1000, which is 10 power 3. So you can write a solution in an n square log n, or you can write in an n square, so that doesn't give you a TLE. So if you write the solution in 10 power 3, then definitely it will give you the TLE. So what approach we use? So if you carefully observe, so what is the intuition? So if you carefully observe, the Fibonacci series always require two elements, right? If any subsequence or sequence following a Fibonacci series, we require two elements, previous elements as the previous element. So if you have these two elements, from then you can like form a sequence. Suppose if you have a previous element and a previous element, suppose this is a 2, this 3. So what will be the current element? 2 plus 3. So for the next element, this will become previous element and this will be the previous element. So for the next element, what will be this? 3 5. So these two addition will be the next element. So this will be 8. So for that, for the next element of the 8, what will be the previous element? This will be the previous element, this is the previous element. So if you carefully observe, what are the two things required is, one is previous element, one is the previous element. Like you require any two elements, so such that the Fibonacci series starts from those two elements. So how do you pick these two elements? So that two elements can be any element from the array, right? So it can be anything array. So what you can do is, so it can be a first number and it can be another number, it can be a third number or anything, something like that. So what you can do is you iterate from 0 to I less than n I plus plus, and you iterate in j is equal to I plus 1, because we are choosing a I as the element. So the next element can be any, from the next element onwards the subsequence maybe starts like j less than n. Okay, so what you can do is we have two elements. What is pre-previous? Pre-previous will be nums of I, and the previous will be nums of j. So we have two elements. One is I, one is nums of I and nums of j. So from now onwards, what you can do is you will write a loop, while loop, until that we find the next element that is present in the array. Suppose what will be the next element? Previous plus previous, right? So until this summation is present in a nums, we'll iterate through the loop and we'll just increment the counter. At the start we'll just use a counter as to, because we already found two integers, previous and pre-previous. So if until that previous plus pre-previous plus previous found in the array, we increment the counter. And what we need to do, if you carefully observe, the current element will become previous, and the previous will become pre-previous, so that for the next element we can easily able to find out. So this is my algorithm. So what you're doing is we are just maintaining a nested for loops. So for the particular ith element will be the pre-previous, and jth element will be the previous, and until we found a current next element in the array. So suppose, how do we find pre-previous or previous is present in the array? So in order, like if you have a normal vector, in order to find that element is present in the vector or not, it takes O of n time. So the solution becomes, until now we have n square. If you want to find that element present in the array or not, it takes another n, so which is O of n cube, which is not feasible for our problem statement. So what we can do is we can maintain a map. We can just push all the elements in the vector into the map, so that we can directly find whether that particular element is present in the map or not. So in order to retrieve the data from the map, which takes only word of one time, so this comes under O of one time, so which is down to of n square solution. So yeah, I think you got the intuition. So when I implement the solution, you'll get clear picture around the question. So I'm just repeating the approach again. What we are doing is we are just initializing the previous and previous until we find the next element that is present in the array. We are just using the while loop. If it is present, what we can do is we are just increment the counter, and we're just updating the previous and previous element, and at the end, each and on every previous and pre-previous, we'll just storing it into the answer. So I'll just walk you through the code. You'll get clarity about it. So what we are doing is, if you carefully observe the solution, just initializing the n as the size of an vector, and answer which can hold the which will hold the answer. And why we are using the map? In order to retrieve the answer in of one time, we are just using the map. I think this doesn't require, because in the question they are already mentioned this, it is strictly increasing array, so sorting doesn't require. What I'm doing is I'm just pushing every element into the map. I'm just iterating through the elements. I'm just declaring pre-previous and previous. So pre-previous will be the nums of I, previous will be the nums of j. As I told you earlier, we're just picking two integers, and from then what we are doing is whether the next index is possible or not. So I'm just initializing the counter as to, because we already found two integers. So until this condition satisfies, which means that previous plus previous, which means the next element is already found in the nums, what we are doing is just incrementing the counter. And what will be the next element? Next element will be the pre-previous plus previous. So we need to update the pre-previous as well as the previous. What will be the pre-previous element? Pre-previous will be the current previous element. And what will be the previous element? Current element will be the previous element for the next element. So that's what I do. So after the loop terminates, which means like we don't find any next element present in the array, what we can do is we can just simply store that into our answer variable. Answer will be the max of answer command. In the end, if we don't find any Fibonacci series, which means that answer will have the answer will have the maximum value as a 2, which means that we don't have any Fibonacci series. So if the answer is strictly greater than 2, which means we find a Fibonacci, then only we'll return answer. Or else if the answer returning 2, then we can directly return 0, because we don't find any third element which holds the Fibonacci series. So if answer is more than 2, then we'll return answer, or else we'll just return 0. Let's just run the code. Let's submit the code. Hola, it's submitted. Hola, it's submitted. And that's it for the today video, guys. So if you like my explanation, do like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss any update from the my channel. And if you have any questions regarding my explanation or regarding my code, do put it in a comment section so I'll reply your queries. And that's it for today video, guys. Thank you, tata, bye bye, see you tomorrow.